The rain had been falling for hours, the kind that blurs the edges of the world and makes the road feel endless. Headlights stretched into trembling white lines on the wet asphalt, and the sky pressed low, heavy with sorrow. That was when the truck driver saw them, 3 figures walking along the shoulder of the highway, soaked to the bone, moving as if each step cost more than they could afford. In that single, fragile moment, a choice waited to be made, quiet and ordinary, yet powerful enough to change lives forever. Before the story unfolds any further, pause for a heartbeat. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of one good decision, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Gentle Hearts. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reaching those who need them most. The truck driver had been on the road most of his adult life, hauling freight across states that blurred together in his memory. His name was Daniel, and the cab of his truck was both his livelihood and his refuge. Years earlier, life had taken things from him slowly and then all at once. His marriage dissolved under the weight of long absences, his only son moved away with a bitterness Daniel could never quite erase, and the friendships he once had faded into holiday texts and forgotten birthdays. Driving kept him moving, and movement kept him from thinking too deeply. That night, the rain seemed to echo every regret he had tried to outrun. As Daniel drew closer, the figures sharpened into a man, a woman, and a small child bundled in a thin jacket far too light for the weather. The child's steps were uneven, her legs tired, her head lowered against the rain. The woman held her hand tightly, shielding her with her body, while the man carried a worn backpack that sagged as if filled with all they had left. Cars sped past them without slowing, sending waves of dirty water onto the roadside. Daniel felt the familiar instinct to keep going. He was tired, he had a delivery deadline, and stopping for strangers on a dark highway carried risks he knew well. Yet something in the way the family walked struck him deeply. It was not just exhaustion, it was quiet determination, the kind born when there is no other option. Daniel remembered a night long ago when he had walked alone after his life fell apart, rain soaking through his jacket, pride the only thing keeping him upright. No one had stopped for him then. He had survived, but the memory still ached. The truck slowed almost without his permission. The wipers beat faster as he pulled onto the shoulder, hazard lights blinking like a hesitant heartbeat. For a moment, he sat still, hands gripping the wheel, wondering if he was about to make a mistake. Then he opened the door, and cold rain rushed in, sharp and cleansing. The family froze when they noticed the truck. Fear flickered across their faces, the kind learned through disappointment. Daniel raised his hands slowly, not to speak, but to show he meant no harm. He gestured toward the cab, toward the warmth and shelter it promised. After a long pause, the man nodded. They climbed in, dripping water onto the rubber floor mats, the child shivering so hard her teeth chattered. Daniel handed them a blanket he kept behind the seat, something he had carried for years and never used. As the truck merged back onto the road, the silence inside the cab was thick, heavy with unspoken stories. The rain softened, becoming a steady rhythm that seemed to invite honesty. The family's struggle unfolded not through dramatic words, but through small details, empty hands, tired eyes, the way the woman kept brushing wet hair from the child's face as if to reassure herself she was still there. They had lost their apartment after the factory, where the man worked, shut down without warning. Savings vanished faster than hope. Shelters were full, relatives far away or unwilling. They were walking toward a town miles ahead because it was the only direction left. Daniel listened, his chest tightening. He knew that kind of helplessness, the way the world can shrink until survival becomes the only goal. He thought of his own son, once small enough to fall asleep in his arms, trusting completely. Guilt stirred, heavy and familiar. He realized that this stop on the highway was not an interruption to his life, it was a reminder of what still mattered. He drove them to a diner he knew well, a place that stayed open through the night for truckers and insomniacs. Inside, the warmth wrapped around them like a promise. Daniel paid for hot food without hesitation, watching as color slowly returned to the child's cheeks. He made a few quiet phone calls from the corner booth, reaching out to people he hadn't spoken to in years, an old friend who managed a small motel, a former coworker now running a local warehouse. Each call felt like stretching muscles he had long forgotten how to use. By morning, the rain had eased, and with it, something else had lifted. The motel had a room available for a few nights. The warehouse needed temporary help unloading trucks. It was not a miracle, not a perfect ending, but it was a beginning. The family stood a little taller, hope cautiously reawakening. Daniel felt something shift inside himself too, a warmth he had not felt in years. Days turned into weeks. Daniel kept driving, but his roots began to bend back toward that town more often than necessary. He checked in, sometimes leaving groceries, sometimes just making sure things were moving forward. The man proved reliable and hardworking, earning a permanent position. The woman found work at a daycare, her gentle nature quickly noticed. The child started school, clutching a backpack that no longer sagged with worry but bounced with excitement. The changes were not only theirs. Daniel called his son for the first time in years, not to explain or defend himself, but simply to ask how he was. The conversation was awkward, brief, but it opened a door neither of them had known how to approach. Daniel began to see that kindness given freely had a way of circling back, softening even the hardest edges. One evening, months later, Daniel drove past the same stretch of highway where he had first seen the family. The rain was gone, replaced by a clear sky scattered with stars. He slowed instinctively, remembering the weight of that decision, how close he had come to driving past. He understood now that the road had offered him more than a choice to help others, it had offered him a chance to come back to himself. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the smallest act of kindness can ripple outward in ways we may never fully see, please take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps spread these stories of hope and humanity to others who may need them. Before the end, here is a special request from the heart. Please comment the line, "Kindness still lives," if you believe that one good decision can change everything.